Buckle up for another episode of Ghostfacers, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Richard, and sitting shotgun as always is my brother in podcasting, Reed.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Because we have this podcast together, and
Sorry? You think that we would have a podcast together? We have nothing in common.
We've been best friends for 4 years.
I'm just here because you're my boss. Boss invites you over to his place, you come over.
We have 2 podcasts together.
No, we don't. And you're an alcoholic.
I mean, that's true. That was true before, too.
Let's get into it.
Ghostfacers! We're facing ghosts! We're others, we're not! We're ghosts! Ghostfacers! Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot! Ghosts! Ghostfacers! We're facing nightmare! We're facing dread! Ghosts! Ghostfacers! We're facing faceless! We're facing dead!
Welcome to Ghostfacers. Today we're discussing Season 2, Episode 17. No, it's not. I forgot to update it again.
Isn't it 20?
Yeah,
It
it's
is,
20.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing where if I often when I'm doing 2 episodes, the notes for them at a time.
Richard's bad at going off script.
Well, I just copy and paste and then I forget to update for whatever. It's episode 20. What is and what should never be. We edit nothing out.
That's true.
Yeah. We are joined by someone you may recognize from This Is Rad podcast because all of our fans are This Is Rad fans.
Of course.
As every podcast we do. Please welcome artist and designer Laura Knight.
Hi, I'm here.
Thank you for coming. This is a long time coming. I know, you've been a diehard Supernatural fan for a long time, right?
Yeah, I have. It's come in pieces for sure. Where right when it was happening, I was really into it, and then
Totally.
I broke off for a while, and then once I moved out and was on my own and needed to entertain myself for long periods of time, I got back in and watched the whole thing. And I fell off again, and then I needed something to play in the background at work, so I got back in. And now I've seen everything except for the most current season.
Whoa!
So we gotta. Sorry, I should have prefaced that before we got started. So let's try to keep it in season 2.
We only talk season 2, just in case there's people who haven't.
Okay, good. Because I was I am vaguely aware of what happens. I feel like I've been kind of saving it.
Yeah, fair enough.
When I need it.
Oh, it'll come one day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Though there is a weird thing that, I won't get into it, but there is a weird thing where, a chunk of it was filmed during COVID. So it's you could see where it's they started to solve problems they weren't used to solving. It's we can only have so many people here. Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
No crowd scenes.
It's kind of fun to watch, actually. Yeah.
It is. When you put that perspective, it'll be great. It's like a time capsule in 20 years. There's going to be all of these shows that you look back on and you go, oh, yeah, those, it's like the writer's strike years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's oh, yeah, you could see where all these shows suddenly had to change.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about sort of how deep into the fandom have you gone? Have you because it can get pretty pitch black at moments.
Yeah.
I would say it's a surface level. I don't.
Nice.
There are most things I don't delve deep into the fandom of things as a culture, just because
Probably safe.
I just there's stuff I really love, but I feel like other people can ruin it for me. And I don't mean from a cancel culture standpoint. I mean from these people are toxic and it makes it unpleasant. It's with Steven Universe, I was really into it. And on Tumblr back when it was first coming out, I was really into that fandom. And then it got extremely toxic for something that's
Steven Universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's very toxic. Extremely toxic because it's a lot of identity politics.
Because I'm isn't that all about inclusivity and being who you are?
Yeah, but I guess maybe that puts the target on it. Yeah.
That's the thing is it's being held to this standard, and all the fans are then holding everyone else to this same standard where it's no, you can't depict them this way, you can't do that. There's a lot of valid argument there, but a lot of times it's just a battle of who can be the most woke.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get to a point where you've now come full circle and you're being
exclusive.
You're being exclusive, and you're being intolerant of things that aren't harmful. You get that, and it's a lot of times just people telling each other what they can and can't do. And I feel as a fandom, I don't want to be part of that. And I think that Supernatural can get that way too, but it's definitely a different flavor. It's not the same because it's not an identity politics issue for the most part. It's really just about opinions, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if I think the biggest sort of incendiary point in the supernatural fandom is whether or not it's okay to want Sam and Dean to fuck.
Not. I'm just gonna put my foot down on this one. It's not okay.
And it's not. But that's, I think, where the argument is in the supernatural fandom. Is there are people that are like, but I wrote something very tasteful, and then everyone goes, "Did you?" And then.
Not tasteful.
It's a thing that I didn't even know how big. Like, I knew the term existed, like Wincest and stuff, but until I started trying to get into a lot of the Facebook groups, I didn't realize that it was like it's literally a gate like keeping thing. Like, it's like, okay, if you want to join this group, you're not allowed to do that. Like, it's a weird dark corner of the fandom. But the show also knows it and kind of plays into it sometimes. Which is also a weird dynamic in the show where they are aware that it's like, you like these two hot guys, like, is there a line where we could build tension between them without ever crossing that line? And you go like, what a weird energy. Why walk the line?
Yeah, that is a weird one. I get Castiel, like Destiel is one thing, but like when it comes to the siblings, I don't think that's like a baiting we should be doing.
It's
baiting is one thing. Let's draw a line somewhere.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird when like Sam was trying to like get something out of the dryer and got stuck in there. Like, it just felt unnecessary.
Oh, jeez Louise.
So, I mean, we spoke a bit about it before we started recording, but so you work like doing sort of graphics and stuff for TV shows and movies and things like that. Does that change the way that you watch stuff, like the way you watch TV shows and things like that?
It honestly, it does to some subconscious level. Like, there are times where I'll see a moment where I'd be like, oh, that would be really cool, like little graphic or something. But for the most part, I turn that off because there's few times where I'm actually sourcing things myself, where I have to like go through and watch something and like piece it apart. I've had to do that a lot recently, but for the most part, I don't do that. And so because of that, it doesn't break it down that way to me. Like, I'll think of story beats a lot of times, but that's more from a writer's perspective than an artist's perspective. I definitely look at like graphics in movies and be like, that's bad.
Yeah, totally.
But for the most part, it doesn't interfere. I think the only time it does is when how I appreciate the movie or project I'm working on. Not all projects, but just that specific one. And sometimes I have to separate myself and be like, I can't look at this. Like, I can't look at this anymore. I've been looking at this for months and months. And then there are other times where it's like, I actually really love this property, so I don't mind that I've had to focus on it for so long.
But it's got to like taint it a bit, right? Like sometimes where it's like, I used to like this.
Yeah, it can, but it also reinforces things I do like. So like, here's a weird one, and I think it's fine to talk about because it was such a long time ago. But we worked on Cars 3 to do advertising for them, to do like social advertising, so like fun videos and like graphics and stuff. And like, I had to watch the movie over and over again because I had to source things from it. I had to source like stills and clips. So I had to watch Cars 3 like 4 or 5 times, all the way through.
Right.
Or in bits and pieces, like for the most part, I have to watch the whole film because sometimes when you source something, you don't know where it's going to be and you have to just make it through the whole movie and then it's at the very end or something.
Right.
But I didn't think I was going to like that movie. Didn't think I would have any connection to it. Just thought I'd be
the
like,
spy one?
No, that's 2.
No. 3 is like a real movie.
Oh, okay.
but I mean, like, it's not it's like emotional and stuff. It has like it has pathos and stuff in it. But and it made me cry like almost every time. There was this one scene that just got me, and I think it was like this mentor student kind of relationship that reminded me of this like mentor I had in high school, and like. It hit me hard. And I was just like, it's like, wow, I've watched this movie so many times. It still gets me every time. Like, I cannot, and I don't understand it. Like, so there are times where it absolutely isn't like that. And I gotta say, Cars 3 is actually pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you heard it here. Hot take.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's weird because they had such a like DreamWorks direction they went with in the second movie. So a lot of people don't think that's what it is, but then it's like this emotional like student teacher, like next generation, so, knowing when it's your time to let things go.
Wow.
mourning your father figure. It's like, it's a lot of stuff.
Wow.
So like it actually is kind of a deep movie.
Oh, jeez Louise.
So
when,
yeah.
when do you think we're gonna get the Cars Fast and Furious crossover?
Oh yeah.
You got some brutal stuff in the third movie actually, because you guys remember the trailer for it where like Lightning McQueen like crashes out.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, it looks like
yeah.
he dies in the trailer. Yeah, and so there's some brutal crashes in that.
It's kind of like an Iron Man 3 situation. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
that's
building
right.
himself back up and figuring out where he belongs.
It's kind of Iron Man 3.
Oh, jeez Louise.
Do you does your company that you work with do they develop the creative and like and content and copy and stuff like that, or you mostly do the production pieces?
We do copy, we do concepting for the pieces. We pitch them. We'll pitch that. So we'll pitch like the kind of thing we want to do.
Oh, nice.
And then sometimes they'll even provide us with like assets specifically for that. So like for Incredibles, they gave us some like stuff that we requested. Like the animation team put it together for
that's
us.
awesome.
So there's stuff like that sometimes.
You get to be part of that process?
Yeah, I mean, when mostly like producers and like ADs and copy people decide what we need, or where we're going, but like sometimes it'll be like, I need this for how to accomplish this, and we'll do a request. And sometimes it works. It depends on the studio. It's not every movie. Okay, it's it's every once in a while, but we come up with the copy, we come up with the concepts, we develop the whole thing, and then the client signs off on it. Basically,
that's awesome. That's the thing that I say that because it always makes me laugh the way that they've tried to figure out how to advertise Supernatural. It's a thing that like we talk about it a lot of time, but like the very first ad I ever saw when the show first came out was literally just "hot guys, hot show." That was the words, and they just showed the two guys, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And it like gave no idea, and it turned me off from the show for years, and I never watched it. And I always wonder like who like they've never really figured out.
That's that CW vibe though too, right? Like every season poster for Arrow is Stephen Amell with his shirt off, and there was one year where they made character posters, and all of the men had their shirts off. Diggle, Arrow, like all of them shirts
Weird.
off. It's just it's that CW vibe, man. Like they know that part of why you're watching is because they're beautiful.
Yeah, we don't do anything for CW because they're in house, so they do their own stuff. But they've definitely changed it up recently. Things have gotten a little more with Riverdale, that's really was like the turning point for their shows, for like their advertising changes. They decided, they're like, oh hey, we have to make this look really cool because people are going to judge it and not know what it is. So that's kind of a thing they've gotten better at. I think Supernatural's kind of kept the same for the most part, just because they know who they're selling to.
Yeah, definitely. But it always sort of fascinates me, like them trying to figure out how to sell this show, that it's like, because the audience is so like it definitely is like, it skews larger, sort of like women often are watching it. But I find that like when like people who are like people like me, when like you get into the show and it's like, oh wait, no, this is actually for everybody, but it feels like they really have skewed a lot of the advertising in that specific direction for so long.
Yeah, it's true. I never felt like this show was targeted at me.
No, definitely not.
And it's not even, but the thing is too, is like when you look at the show, it's like, it's not like a feminine show.
No, not at all.
So like it's just the people get hung up on like the like eye candy part, but like almost all shows have like hot people in the main roles. It's not like some weird thing.
I mean Jensen is like top tier for sure. Like,
all right, come now.
But I get it.
Dean girl.
Yeah. So we always talk about the Lucretia Lyons, what she said on This Is Rad.
You're a Dean girl or you're a lesbian.
It's the best line ever. I'll remember that forever. So good. Why don't we start talking about today's episode?
Let's do it.
Sure, yeah.
So this episode aired May 3rd, 2007. Let's all just soak that in for a moment.
Yeah.
There is a lot to be said about this episode. So it was written by Rael Tucker, who actually received the Constellation Award for her work on this specific episode.
Interesting.
Yeah. And was directed by Eric Kripke.
Wow, Kripke's in for this one.
This marks his directorial debut, period. Like, this is the first time he's ever directed anything.
You did
He's
a great
written.
job.
Really?
Yeah.
This episode.
This is the very first time
Wild.
he ever directed. Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
I noticed it was produced by Mick G. I also saw that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always kind of funny.
I was
Whenever you see that, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this.
This episode was viewed by an estimated 3.11 million viewers. But despite obtaining kind of low views for the show, this is a little bit on the lower end. The episode actually acquired a lot of really positive critical reviews. So this is actually well regarded.
It's a strong episode.
Yeah, but just like not a lot of people watched it, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, this whole season is generally in the threes. I think we had a couple episodes that dipped just under, but like, so to still be over the 3 mark, I think is pretty good at this point in time for this show.
Typically what it is I find with Supernatural, if it's an episode where you have to have seen other parts of the show to really get it, they typically the views are lower. So like season finales typically are lower. Episodes like this where they really play off of sort of the history of the guys, that kind of stuff typically ends up being lower views. When it's your sort of monster of a week thing, it's easier for people, I think, to pop
maybe. Yeah, it's hard to know that before the episode, though, right? Like, I don't really know fully how ratings work, but
I have no idea.
But like, it is funny to me that like, how would you know that before watching? You know, like you'd think be like, oh, a Jinn, like genies or whatever, and people just tune in, but apparently not.
No,
yeah.
I don't know, like my dad would just turn on stuff and if it didn't confuse him, he'd just keep watching.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like that's what it is like it's just not confusing because they do a really good job, like the X-Files, where they, you know, basically make it pretty clear from the beginning you don't need backstory for this one.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
fair enough.
This is a monster of the week. And then like previously on isn't talking about like, because for this one previously on was like about relationships and stuff, like who's related to and what happened. So I feel like because it doesn't have something, like the ones like that don't have something at the beginning, you're getting a much more clear cut thing, like, oh, I don't need to know anything, like they're just hunting something.
Yeah, fair enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we forget about the casual viewers like my father, who are like, just put things on and not have any relationship. Like my brother once just put Twilight 2 on, never seeing Twilight, put it on the TV because it was on HBO.
Which is why shows like fucking NCIS
do so well,
shit like that do so well, because most of them are identical. You just put it on and it happens, and you don't need that much setup.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the international title.
Sure. Okay.
Always my favorite part. So I mean,
this title is
probably one of the wordiest titles we've gotten in the series so far.
Like we're not fully into like the Fall Out Boy title era that comes later, but like we're approaching it.
Yes. So this one, What Is and What Should Never Be, is a Led Zeppelin song.
Right.
Much to, I think, the popularity of this series. In these first couple of series, they love using sort of, especially Led Zeppelin song titles.
Totally.
So, I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of a weird title. So I was like, how are they going to get it in a lot of the other countries? Like, is there going to be
do a lot of them just use the same title because it's a song title?
No.
They go all over?
Yeah.
All right, let's have it.
The ones who, there's one country that basically did almost exactly it, which is Poland.
Okay.
Poland it's What Is and What Will Never Be.
Right. What will never be.
Yes. So basically the same thing, right? German.
It's the German one. I don't know. It's
think about German mentality towards things.
What is happening here is not possible.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's very like it's like super. There's no gray area. It's how it is and how it should never be.
How it is. I like that. That's funny.
It's a small change.
I like that. All right.
This is how things are going to be.
How it should never be.
Brazil.
I mean, they're probably further off the mark, I would think.
Not a huge jump. It's Just a Dream.
Just a Dream? Like the Nelly song?
That's so funny. You know, the thing about it, though, is that's a spoiler for the episode, because you're not supposed to know what exactly is going on. So yeah, that is a spoiler. That's so weird.
That's a thing that I love about these international titles, is often it's a spoiler.
Yeah, it's just like he dies at the end. Like that's it's fairly funny.
Just a Dream.
Twist. That's the crux of the episode. That's the twist. Like, I don't understand. You're not supposed to know that it's like they give you so many red herrings that it's real all
I
the
know.
way through. So it's like,
Yeah, I'm just starting to think that other cultures don't care about mystery.
Yeah.
Like they're like, just get to it.
Yeah,
They're
what's
just-
the thing? So I'm not questioning it the whole episode.
I can't deal with the suspense that it could be real.
The French.
Oh, the French one is He Made a Wish.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
It's similar to Brazil, but they get a little bit more sort of sassy about it.
Okay.
It's like in a dream.
Okay, yeah.
It's like maybe this is not a dream. Who
It's
knows?
a simile.
Yeah.
I mean, that one works better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit. It's a little bit maybe up to speculation. but,
Yeah.
the Finns.
I have no idea where this one would go.
It makes no sense.
Okay.
At all.
All right.
A mysterious woman.
I mean, there is a mysterious woman.
One.
There is, though.
It's sort of like the C plot of this episode, though.
That's kind of like the one from a few
That
weeks
is-
ago where it was the house with the porcelain dolls, but they
Yes.
called the episode like the name of the grandma and her sister. It was like it's technically part of the episode, but it's like we're 3 or 4 layers in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
get anything from that title. That doesn't tell you anything, really.
No.
Nothing at all. And kind of like, yeah, isn't the sort of like the foundation of the episode. It's you sort of like towards the end you go, oh yeah, there's this woman. Oh,
Yeah.
that is
If
the thing, this
anything, a
person.
mysterious woman would have been good for like an early Meg episode
Yeah.
or something.
Like the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it because it's a woman in white is the first episode?
Yes.
right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
the name of it. Yeah.
The Hungarians.
Hungarian one. Oh God, no idea.
This one, it sort of does everything, but also nothing.
Okay.
It's Ghost from the Bottle. Which I'm like, that's kind of a genie, I guess.
I know, but it sounds
Maybe
it sounds like there was a trademark issue.
I could totally see it though as like in some languages that's what they call a genie
Yeah.
natively, you know.
Oh,
I guess.
heard you're trying to use a genie in this episode. Oh. I don't think that'll be happening.
That's really funny.
Yeah, Ghost from the Bottle. So, featured music from this episode. We got 2 legit bangers in this episode.
Let's have it.
We've got What a Wonderful World by Joey Ramone.
Oh yeah.
Great song. And Saturday Night Special by Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 2 like legit bangers in this one. Not a lot of music in this one, but what's actually interesting is so all of the music is actually from the music producer from this who does all of the supernatural stuff. He sort of like really got to experiment a bit in this and use like I think it was like a bassoon or something in a lot of this. Like he brought in new instruments and stuff. But largely, yeah, it's all score and not actual soundtrack.
Interesting.
Which is interesting for this show.
Nice.
So TV Guide describes this one. Speaking about spoilers,
yeah.
TV Guide loves to ruin these. So TV Guide describes this episode as: while hunting a genie, Dean finds himself transported to an alternate reality where his mother is alive, Sam is in law school and engaged to Jessica, and Dean lives a normal life with his girlfriend. But then the vision of a strange girl, oh, there it is, makes him wonder where he really is. So she didn't spoil it, this one.
But that's also so long.
Yeah.
If your synopsis has the words "but then," it's too long.
Especially if it's like, because like for TV Guide, they're just trying to entice you.
I
It's
know.
not supposed to be.
Like that synopsis is like just a hair's breadth away from saying "we cut back to," and then just like.
It also seems long for the format of TV Guide.
It does. Yeah,
It's
Oh, look.
crazy.
I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's what I think is really funny is usually TV Guide their whole synopsis is like, hey, this is the thing that happens in the show. You don't gotta watch it. Like, it's usually one sentence and it just goes like, this is what happens. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just like things are happening, and then this thing happens, and the guy who was watching it was just like really enthralled by what was going on.
Yeah, it does feel like the whoever wrote it was really invested. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to talk about today's episode, but before we do, let's open up Dad's journal and learn about some of the real world lore on today's monster.
Yeah, let's see what the lore says about Jinn.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's delicious with lime and seltzer.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah,
They
nice.
made a joke about it in the episode.
Oh, do they?
Come on, Richard.
Oh, I could use some tonic for this gin.
He says, I'm like, I think he's like, I'm hunting a Jinn. And then they're like, what, Jinn? You want to drink gin? What? Because apparently he has a drinking problem.
Oh, that's right. Yes, they do sort of play on that. There's actually something to be said about that. We'll get into it in a minute. So talk about the Jinn.
Jinn, or the anglicized version, genies.
Yes.
They're powerful supernatural beings. They're said to be made of fire and air. There's a really fascinating thing about Jinn, which is that they are part of like Arabian folklore and stuff like that from Islam. Okay. It goes way, way back in folklore. There's a belief that maybe they were like disenfranchised, like pagan deities that just now wander. Yeah, and stuff like that. That like that's why they're so powerful and stuff like that. But they are mortal.
Oh, really?
We don't know how long they live, but they live longer than humans. But they still eat, sleep, have sex. They can have children. They die. Like they're mortal. And it's interesting too because unlike a lot of other ones like vampires or stuff like that, they're not inherently good or evil. They're just like they just exist. And the coolest part that I found is that when Islam is introduced, Jinn are worked in. Like they get folded in, and they're not necessarily treated like angels or demons, even though the word sometimes means kind of globally, it kind of includes those things. They get worked in as like a sister species to humans.
Oh,
it's kind of fascinating. Like, I'm gonna kind of fuck it up here, but the idea is that in the Quran, it talks about Muhammad and other messengers seeking out different communities to, spread the word and stuff like that. But they talk about also going to communities of humans and going to communities of Jinn.
Whoa.
Meaning that Jinn are also then subject to the morality of the world, could go to heaven or hell, or you know what I mean?
To, like worship like a god, right?
Yeah, like it's so fascinating that it's worked in there.
Wow.
So they're also in as like other parts of society.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's so cool. It's one of the cooler things that I've seen that ends up back in like a religious text.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat. So Jinn folklore. So it's said that like they were invoked by soothsayers or philosophers or poets to be inspiration for them. They were thought to live in like dingy, dirty places, and that was tied to a belief that they were also behind a bunch of like diseases and stuff like that. That sometimes, like as penance for something humans did, they would cause like an outbreak of
so maybe that's a connection
something.
to like the warehouse in this episode.
Well, yeah, that definitely that sort of thing. So they could inhabit inanimate objects. So that's where you get like the genie
bottle
of the lamp or the ring or from these different things. It's said that they were not specifically these numbers, but basically like 90% spirit, 10% physical, which means they could interact physically with things in a way that like not all ghosts can.
Yeah.
But also that they could change their shape, they could fly, they could glide on air, they were sort of made of air. So they weren't like totally corporeal, but they also had these like physical needs like eating and drinking and
90%
like
spirit and 10% physical. It sounds like me as a partner. I've got a lot of gumption, but just like there's nothing.
Good Lord. Oh,
deprecating.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is there another type of comedy?
They can turn invisible. They could do all sorts of stuff. So generally speaking, they were not depicted as, or they were depicted as having power and being kind of magical, but they weren't depicted as like unlimited cosmic power.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's a good segue into the story of Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp, which is
super authentic,
which is itself the inspiration for Disney's Aladdin, which is the one for us in the Western world, and that we're probably most familiar
with. Yeah.
But that story, Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp, isn't in the original 1001 Arabian Nights. It was added when it was translated in the 18th century or something like that. It was added at that point. And it itself is based on a combination of other folk tales.
So you're telling me that Arabian Nights might not be like Arabian Days?
Good Lord.
But in that story, there's a genie of the ring that helps Aladdin get out of the cave. And then there's the genie of the lamp that helps him become wealthy and successful.
There's different genies.
Yeah, there's multiple genies. And then the sorcerer steals the genie of the lamp. And then the genie of the ring has to help them against that. Like, there's multiple genies and they live in different things. And they have varying levels of power and magic. But like the genie of the lamp in that is depicted as being crazy powerful in that like he transports a full castle from where they are, which is supposedly somewhere in China, all the way to the Maghreb, which is like Northwest Africa.
Whoa.
So that's a depiction of a jinn that is exceedingly powerful.
Not like the one we're getting in this episode.
And not like a lot of the ones that you see in other folklore, which is just that they are like a different type of being, less powerful than angels and demons, more powerful than humans. So it's kind of interesting to see like the different interpretations of that. But it's wild. To me, the thing that really stood out to me was how lots of religions fold in pagan things, but it was like the deliberate choice that they were. It's almost like for Lord of the Rings fans out there, it's almost like how elves and humans are both like the children of Iluvatar. They were like, yeah, jinn and humans, the two main sentient species.
Wow.
And then, yeah, it's sort of wild.
Is this a thing that like is still like prevalent in like the religion?
I don't know that a lot of, I mean, I don't know enough about like Islam. I don't know if in praying they bring up jinn a lot or stuff like that, but it's crazy to me that it's in there. It's referenced. It would be like if at the beginning of like the New Testament, they were like, and Jesus went and he cured the leper and he went over here. And then also he hung out with a werewolf. They played cards.
You know what's funny?
And then they went.
It's because that's what we just recorded. But in my head, I was like, werewolves.
Yeah. But it's essentially like that. Like the Quran is just like, oh yeah, jinn exist. And they are also subject to God's laws.
Wow.
Like it's wild.
Which is interesting too, because didn't we speak recently about sort of like that, like black magic and things like that, and like using magic as like really sort of like bad in those religions?
Extremely taboo. Yeah. I can't remember what episode that was. Yeah, but that's true. Although there was also a thing that I read that where there was like the possibility or the supposition that when Muhammad was first like receiving prophecy and things like that he questioned it as possibly being the work of a jinn casting an illusion or something, and then ultimately concluded it was not.
Wow.
But that there was like a moment of doubt in there. Very fascinating stuff. Yeah.
Wow. So that is jinn. That is the genies. That is the sort of subject of this episode.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, we should start talking about this episode. We've got a lot of behind the scenes stuff to talk about in this episode, because this is Kripke's like first time ever directing. So,
I can't believe that. That's
I know,
wild.
it's kind of crazy. So
it's a solid episode.
Yeah.
For your first time at it. So a part of that was that Kripke had talked to the writer of this episode, who was Rael Tucker. He had basically requested that she try to make it as director proof as possible.
Right.
But that would play with structure and really do something different. So both like make it
complex and interesting, and also so that I cannot mess it up. Yeah.
He shot down every idea the writers pitched to him until Tucker suggested an alternate reality episode, drawing inspiration from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode Normal Again.
Right.
And Kripke was excited by the concept. God, it sucks that I can't enjoy Buffy anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we can't enjoy much.
No, yeah. Burn your idols. So he felt Dean's definitive moment was the death of his mother, Mary.
Yeah.
So the diversion path of the new reality would be based on the question, what if mom never died?
Yeah.
That's sort of the like preface of this entire thing, right? This change allows Sam and Dean to live normal lives, though at the cost of their relationship. The point of their false reality, in Kripke's opinion, was to show the brothers would not be close, and if they would not have become hunters.
Yeah.
The staff tried to persuade him to remove this aspect, but he thought it would be lame if Sam and Dean were to have a seventh heaven relationship once the story was developed. Wow.
Yeah, I like the idea that of all of the grief and horror and everything they have to go through, that it is it also gives them like the best thing they've got.
It's the thing that
they shouldn't get to keep
stronger.
it if everything else. Yeah, I'm with them. I like it.
Tucker was given free reign over the script. This surprised her because she expected Kripke to be more of a backseat driver than he was. I'm assuming he's just stressed out about it.
I guess after the point where he shot down every pitch that he was like, you could do. Yeah.
The opportunity to bring back the character Mary Winchester excited Kripke, though she is a driving force behind the brothers' quest to kill the demon Azazel, and is referenced numerous times throughout the first two seasons. Her two appearances in the seasons were really brief.
Yeah, extremely.
Yeah, the mostly it's just her running and then her on the ceiling,
and then briefly in Home.
Yes,
in that episode. Yeah.
The episode allowed the character to be expanded upon, depicting her as a really perfect and idyllic mother. However, Kripke felt that Dean would realize something was amiss if he was granted a perfect dream world. So John Winchester, who died in the second season premiere, remains dead.
Yes.
So they were like, if everything is perfect, Dean's gonna like figure it out, right?
Yeah, isn't that the rationale in like the Matrix?
Yeah,
they tried to make a utopia and then they lost a bunch of crops or whatever, so they had to make a flawed world so that people bought that it was real.
Yeah. Kind of crazy. The final version of the episode differed from the original concept. It was initially intended for Dean to be a huge loser in his new life. Being a hunter is what gives him structure and purpose. But without hunting, he would be a jobless barfly. I think, which is why you get a lot of like alcoholic jokes about it. So people are just expecting him to be that way. And so they sort of associate him with that during a lot of the script.
Right.
Kripke compared the new reality to a Bukowski novel, but noted that the selfless Deans is still preferred the new universe, with Sam happy and living a good life. However, executive producer Robert Singer and others convinced him to change this because they did not think that Dean would be happy suddenly waking up in such a reality. Another variation stemmed from Dean's lack of someone to confide in. Normally, Sam is his confidant, but because the writers found it difficult to communicate Dean's feelings, early drafts of the script included a number of internal monologues. These were ultimately replaced by a scene in which he discusses Jinn with a professor. All of that leading up to this episode is a lot, right?
Any more notes?
Not yet. There's a lot coming. It's an interesting episode. There's a lot, right? So let's actually start talking about the scenes in this episode.
Right.
Our very first shot of this is of the Impala's front license plate, and it's the first time they change the license plate. So we go from the Kansas KAZ2Y5 to Ohio. Sorry, Ohio CNK80Q3.
Right.
Which is sort of the one I think is the most well known.
Yes.
I think throughout the rest of the series. Dean's driving on his phone with Sam, who is back at their motel room. Sam peers through the motel curtains, nervously telling Dean that there's a cop car up front. Dean reassures Sam that there's nothing to worry about since they ditched the Impala's license plate and all of the credit cards. So this is the sort of like the way they explain this license change, right? Yeah. It's an interesting thing, because I mean,
this is the episode immediately after Folsom Prison Blues. They just escaped from prison.
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna have a reason why they're gonna kind of do all of this stuff. But it's a really nice thing, sort of like it's one of the things I love about the show is that their control over continuity is crazy.
Yeah,
like that show Bible must be nuts. Like they just like constantly are like, oh, we did this. make sure like 3 seasons from now or 5 seasons from now we reference this thing that was changed like forever ago.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's amazing.
It's pretty cool.
Sam's not sure the life of a fugitive is what he had in mind, but shifts to the current hunt, asking Dean if he's found anything. Dean scoffs, saying that Sam has him sifting through 50 miles of real estate. Sam wanders back to a large stack of books, telling Dean that he figures that they're hunting a Jinn.
You're right.
So right away, boom! It's like there's no question about like what are we going after. I always love that with this show, right? It's usually like this like long question about maybe what's the thing, but I love when they just sort of like slam right into this is the monster. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and sometimes it's like the audience already knows what the monster is. Sometimes and it's annoying. So in this one, it's like, okay, we're here. We all know.
It's the Columbo thing, right? Where it's just like everybody knows who it is except for the one character.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah, maybe is it a Jinn? I don't know. Dean, wow, we're really speaking to our audience here.
Peter Falk. Yeah.
Dean's wry grin echoes through his voice as he asks Sam if he thinks freaking genie can actually grant wishes. While Sam goes to the Quran, Dean muses about genie as in I dream of genie.
He talks about the hot chick or whatever. So, a little
hotter than Bewitched.
It's a thing about the show. It's like it's funny watching how they sort of like change even just the way they talk, like without finding a better way to explain it, like the wokeness level throughout the seasons. Like Dean's always going to be sort of like this sort of like sleazy kind of guy, but they like
he gets less sleazy though. He's always going to appreciate like the physical form.
Yes,
but he's a little less gross about it as time goes on.
So trying to keep Dean focused, Sam tells him that the Jinn usually flare up in ruins. The bigger the better. So getting it back to that.
Yeah, that idea of like things that are derelict or dingy or ill-maintained or whatever.
Exactly. Dean remembers a likely place a few miles back and ignoring Sam's request to pick up first. He hangs up, a suddenly serious expression on his face. I mean, this is kind of the beginning of the episode. We don't really get the classic like cold open or anything, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we go to Dean going through this place. Like, it's like is it a factory or
it's a warehouse?
It's a warehouse.
It's an abandoned warehouse. But fun fact for everyone who's still watching TV in 2007, the creepy warehouse used as a lair by the Jinn was a redesigned warehouse set from the television series Kyle XY.
Oh my God. No belly button boy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is. What is Kyle XY?
It's like he was genetically created or something. How do you remember the premise?
Oh God. I think he was like a test tube baby.
Yes.
Okay.
But like fully, and that's why he doesn't have a belly button.
Oh,
and
sure.
They made that like a big thing for some reason. Like that was in the advertising, was like him holding up his stomach and not having a belly button. And
gross.
Like, why is this the marketing? I don't understand this.
Oh,
hot guys, hot show.
So strange.
They didn't know how to market shows back then.
Very odd.
Women don't like belly buttons, so this is
yeah. Our market testing has shown
if it's an innie, it's an outie.
God damn.
Come on, that was good.
Good Lord.
Dean's got a flashlight in one hand and blood-tipped knife in the other. So they already is going like they didn't even explain it, but there's a way to kill this thing. Something to do with blood.
And again, that's the thing I like about an episode where they just know what the monster is. This happened with the werewolf episode a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
is that the episode opens, Dean opens his toolkit and he goes, "I know what we need. Let's do it."
But they don't need to explain it either. They don't be like, because of this blah 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 thing. Like they don't need all of that back. Like it's just like, look, there's a way. Blood's involved. Don't worry about it.
Totally.
So he's carefully moving through empty corridors. Dean slowly shifts up his grip on the knife, then turns suddenly as if he heard something or something behind him. But of course, classic, nothing.
Yeah. Classic fake out.
Yes. As he continues to walk through the warehouse, we see the figure of a Jinn hiding in the shadows. Getting the jump on Dean, the Jinn slams him up against the wall, one hand on his throat. Settle.
Oh.
Causing him to drop the knife. As Dean struggles up against the Jinn's grip, the Jinn raises his free hand. Electric blue lightning bounces and crackles along its palm and fingers. He presses it against Dean's forehead. Dean gasps, his eyes roll up, and the screen goes black.
Ooh. Sorry.
Getting a little hot in here. Need to open a window.
Fun fact, this Jinn is played by a guy that we've met.
Really?
Mackenzie Gray,
Oh, yeah.
who is a character actor in a ton of things, but
He's great.
yeah.
So let's talk a bit about the Jinn, right? Because it's a really interesting design for this. It's not something that we like in all the things that you've researched. It's not really one for one. So the writers wanted to use a wish to create the new reality and chose a genie to facilitate. The Islamic Jinn, the origin of the genie folklore, became the episode's monster. The word Jinn, translated from the original Arabic, stands for both a wish-granting genie and for a demon as well.
It also, depending on, because the etymology is really obscured.
Yeah.
They don't actually agree on what it comes from. Sometimes it also means like something hidden or obscured because they
Really?
can shapeshift and that. It might also refer to like a very specific tribe of people called like the Jinni or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, yeah, from
There's
so
a lot,
long ago.
There's
yeah.
a lot of speculation.
But they obviously featured this bastardized Western concept of wish granting to fit in the episode. This is not like a thing from most of the lore. I don't
Although
think, right?
the folklore of the Aladdin thing is based on folk tales, but then was interpreted by a French guy and written as if it was part of these stories. But
So to avoid the typical portrayal of genies in pop culture, such as those from Aladdin and I Dream of Jeannie, they chose to create a logical twist on the lore by making the creature vampiric.
yeah, it like feeds on your life force.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it uses the wish to trap you while it does it.
Yeah. Tucker originally intended for the creature's feeding method to be mystical. It would inhale the victim's life essence from his or her mouth. However, Kripke preferred to style it more like a horror movie and had the Jinn feed from a shunt in the victim's neck.
Yeah, which is messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross.
It seems like more in line with the idea, though, that they're a race similar to humans rather than like gods.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So I
absolutely.
feel like that plays into that more because it makes them not less scary, but more tangible. Like you
Yeah.
feel like your disbelief is suspended more easily,
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
Yeah.
way more easily.
I like the design in the show too, the tattooed kind of look. And
Well,
that.
let's talk about that.
And then bringing in, I know it's coded like we're like blue genie,
Yeah.
but bringing in like the blue eyes and it's kind of like the blue
Yeah,
energy.
yeah.
It's almost like a flame kind of too. It's kind of neat.
Let's talk about
Instead of red too, because it's such an easy go go red,
totally.
especially when it's a malignant kind of thing.
Yeah. Especially for like Middle Eastern stuff, I find you tends to stick with like warmer color palettes and things like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice contrast.
That's what they did in like American Gods.
Yeah.
Their Jinn is fiery.
Right.
He has fire eyes.
Right.
Exactly. So the creature's appearance was actually inspired by an image of a woman with henna tattoos that Kripke had found on the internet. That's sort of a connection there. He thought it would be intriguing to have a villain's entire body tattooed. So we talked about Mackenzie Gray. He had to shave his head.
Yep.
So the special effects makeup artist, Toby Lindala, only used a minor prosthetic to cover his eyebrows. Lindala found the tattoos to be particularly challenging because of the intricate designs. So the production schedule could not accommodate the 6 hours needed to apply the makeup each day. So the actor was booked with the condition that the makeup not be removed for 4 days.
So they put the makeup on once and then he just lived that way.
Yeah, for 4 days. Gray's personal life was affected by this as people on the street were scared by his appearance. Lindala was surprised that Gray was able to keep the tattoos undamaged outside of filming.
That's kind of cool, actually. That's pretty dope.
Isn't that crazy? I thought that was really
Interesting.
cool. So now we come from this blackout and we see a TV flickering. It's from From Hell It Came is playing in black and white on this TV next to a rumpled bed. So the TV showing basically on The movie showing on TV when Dean wakes into his dream world is from Hell It Came, which is from 1957, which is a sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
It sort of mirrors the plot of this episode. A warrior is wrongfully killed, only to return as an avenging tree that only kills bad people. Similarly, Dean wakes up and avenges frees the girl stuck by the killing Jinn and removing the false reality from the dream.
Yeah.
So
and Dean wakes up and he looks over. There's someone next to him in bed. He's shirtless. We're on board. And he gets up and he like immediately calls Sam and he's like, I don't know where I am. And Sam's like, are you okay? And he's like, the Jinn attacked me. And this is where we get that.
Yeah, the Jinn joke.
The Jinn joke where Sam is like, Jinn, what, you drinking gin now?
What's a thing like you coming into a Jinn joke like this?
Good Lord.
I like the idea that it's like so insane that he would be drinking gin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But basically, he hangs up on Dean. Then we go to Sam, who's setting the phone down. He returns to a book he'd been poring over when his brother called, Criminal Law and Procedure. So now we're getting connected to Sam sort of from this legal background.
Yeah, Dean is like, I woke up next to some hot chick, and Sam's like, you mean Carmen?
Yeah.
It's like, it's the first hints of like something is weird.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So he sees a stack of mail on a nearby table, and with a muttered sort of "what the hell," he sees that they are addressed to both this Carmen that Sam mentioned, as well as himself, with Lawrence, Kansas address on it.
Yeah.
So now we're starting to go like, oh, like we're back in Lawrence. Sam is like either a lawyer, becoming a lawyer. We're not sure. Yep. He's with this person. And then Carmen herself emerges from the bedroom, sleepy and wondering why he's up. Dean makes up an excuse and promises to join her in just a minute. She buys it, kisses him, and returns to the bedroom.
Yeah.
Dean begins to look around the living room with all these pictures and with him and Carmen together. He's realizing that he's like, there's a life here. Like he somehow has a life with this person that he didn't realize, right? Glancing across the room, he sees another picture and a look of horrified disbelief crosses his face. He crosses the room, picks it up, examines it, drops it, and tears out of the room.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what did he see?
Yeah, I like this scene. Like, we know something's up.
They don't reveal it though, right? You don't see what he sees. I assume it's a picture of his mother.
Yeah.
Him as an adult with his mother.
Totally.
This is a good scene though. I like it because we know something is up, but the differences are subtle. You know, like even if you go like, even if you read the TV guide thing, you're like, it's an alternate reality. You're sort of, you don't know how deep it goes. Like, did the Jinn just mess with his memory?
Yeah.
Or is this like a dream? Is it like a dream?
Yeah.
All those kind of things. Yeah.
It does a good job of basically setting up the premise without not really showing a lot. And then also sort of like playing off of what your knowledge of the show is already. Right?
Totally. Yeah.
Which I like. That it doesn't hold your hand that much. It's just like, hey, if you know the show, you know something's off. He also seems confused. So if it's the first time watching, you understand something's wrong. But otherwise, they don't really sort of give you that much, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we now, the Impala rumbles to a stop in front of the Winchester childhood home.
Yeah, Dean like pulls, I mean, it's like nighttime and he's like ringing the doorbell and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the door opened.
Oh, sorry. I just love the idea that if it wasn't his mom, it's like a fucking random person. He's just like the house didn't burn down, but mom moved.
Yeah, exactly. The show ends. He's just like, oh, I guess not.
That would have been so funny. Oh God, that's good.
Where does mom live?
Yeah.
It was a lot of upkeep. She downsized, man. What are you doing here?
Yeah, she's living there alone. It's not out of the reality of being possible. But the door opens and Mary Winchester is standing there looking sleepy and wrapped up in her robes. So fun fact about the actress Samantha Smith, who plays Mary Winchester, Dean's mom. She's actually only 9 years older than Dean.
Of course.
Well, that's like how Jeffrey Dean Morgan is too, right? He's only like 10 years.
Yeah, just a few years.
They just cast really well.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's kind of looked the same age for the last like 20 years. He's just gotten a little bit grayer, but mostly.
Yeah.
And a real zaddy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So Dean's face is in disbelief. He's hurt and hopeful. He says, "Mom," and asks.
He does the hunter thing, which is like, what did you tell me at, like, it was like something very specific. He's like, I need to make sure this isn't like a hallucination. Yeah.
He asks what she told him before putting him to bed when he was a kid. With a small smile, Mary replies that she told him angels were watching over him. Passing the test, Dean gathers up her in a hug and almost gleefully roams the room looking at pictures. It's kind of like a heartbreaking and sweet moment.
I kind of love like the pictures that he looks at, like of like Sam, like high school graduation Sam, and like prom Dean and stuff like that. I kind of think it's fun.
I think they're real photos too. Like the ones of them younger, I'm 90% certain are just real. I mean, there's ones where they're like together as a family. Obviously, that's not real. But the individual shots, it really does look like, okay, that's him in high school.
Yeah, they feel too good.
Yeah,
I
the
think
ones
to not
be real.
Yeah,
the ones from the prom and the graduation are slightly edited, but they're photos from their childhood. Many of the photos were photoshopped by graphic artist Mary Lou Ann Liu. Each one was discussed and refined as Kripke felt they were important to show the new Winchester family history.
Right.
Really cool. Actually, I looked up Marianne Liu last night, and she's done like a ton of like film production work and stuff and film design stuff. She's really interesting. She's been working in the industry for a really long time.
Nice.
Too. So yeah, female Asian like graphic designers, been working in the industry for a long time. Definitely worth checking out.
Nice.
So he discovers that not only had John once belonged to a softball team, that he died in his sleep of a stroke earlier that year.
Yeah.
His mother thinks that he's been drinking, because everyone seems to think he's been drinking, and says she's going to call Carmen to get him.
Yeah.
Dean assures that he's as sober as a judge and says he just wants to stay there. He sits on the couch as Mary touches his cheek and kisses his forehead. His face relaxes for the first time since basically like Dead Man's Blood. He's like calm and relaxed.
Yeah.
It's like heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's tough to see Dean like this.
It is, because he's happy.
Him through these too. They are the one who they put him through these alternate realities, because they do it again. And was it season 14?
Yeah,
they do this
Yeah.
again. But everyone's aware or not everyone's aware at first, but they become aware of what's going on, where he really is back. But like, it's always on Dean to
It's true,
do that.
yeah.
And I think I honestly think it's because Sam would not.
He doesn't have the connection, right?
He doesn't. Well, no, but I don't think he'd have the strength. I think Sam would not. I think he'd get trapped. I think he would.
Totally.
So I think that's why they put Dean through it.
Yeah,
I think
it's
he
interesting.
No, he will abandon it.
Well, and he's got the connection to the family, so the emotions are stronger, but then also he's the strongest of the two of them, so he really has to like power through.
Well, and again, it's because Sam is an infant when their mom dies.
That's
like
huge
this,
piece of it.
the trauma is like an abstraction for him, right? Yeah. Like Sam's trauma is growing up with John.
Yeah.
Dean's trauma is that his mom died.
That's
exactly.
because Dean was like 6 or so. Like Dean was old enough to know that she was gone.
Yeah, he's 4 or something. He has memories, and like he knows, right? For Sam, the trauma is just dealing with John, but like his mom is like an abstract concept.
But also Dean had to deal with the fact that like he watched his dad transform. Like he got the original version of his father and then lost that.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I do think it makes sense for Dean to be the one in this situation.
Yeah.
Well, and Sam also has Jessica, and getting Jessica back would be really that would be something that would keep him there, I think.
Oh, totally, right?
Because Dean doesn't have anything like that besides his mom.
Yeah.
But his mom's been gone a long time, whereas Jessica had just died. Like, Jessica like died like a year ago or something at this point in the story.
Yes, I don't think Sam would have let go. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah.
Dean falls asleep on the couch, waking up the next morning with a start. The first thing on his mind is Sam calling him. He reaches for his cell phone. We then shoot to Kansas University. Dean heads to the University of Kansas and manages to talk his way into an anthropology professor's office to gather more clues on the Jinn. It's interesting, right? Because the Jinn still is like on his mind. He still feels like he knows everything is off, but he's also still trying to do this hunt. It's weird that he's still just like, I know everything's wrong, but
it's not the exact same premise, but it has shades of that Inner Light episode of Star Trek
Next Generation,
where when Picard is first in that hallucination, he's like, no, I captained a starship. And the longer he's in there, the more he is distanced from what the real thing is. So Dean is still early in this. So he's like, there's definitely still a Jinn out there. I got to finish this hunt.
Well,
then I'll figure out what's happening.
And he asks the professor if Jinn can really grant wishes. So he's partly thinking like, did I just get my wish from this Jinn?
Yeah.
Like, I know it attacked me, but like maybe this is my wish coming true.
Yeah.
And of course the professor just assumes he's been drinking.
Yeah.
Well, I like this little scene with the professor though, because we have to remember that this is the Jinn still in control of everything. So when he talks to the professor says that they are considered to be able to change reality, which makes him think it's not a dream.
Right.
Totally.
So that's the Jinn. That's the Jinn fighting him back.
Yeah, that's true.
Attack him with it again. And I think that's really smart because you just take that guy at face value because it's like, oh, it's a professor, but that's the Jinn.
Yeah,
he's telling him to believe that this is real.
That's right. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. He finds out that the mythology states that Jinn could grant wishes, and wondering what, if that is true, is in it for the Jinn, right? Because it's just like, well, if that's true, then why attack me, and then why grant my wish? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Dean heads back to a rainy campus street. He looks in the Impala's trunk, which is empty except for a few trivial bits and pieces, and murmurs bemused, "Who'd have thought it, baby? We're civilians."
Yeah.
Which is a cute line. I like that.
I like it. Yeah.
Before shutting...
Full of like sturdy magazines and stuff.
Yeah, just busty Asians. That's all there is.
Empty gin bottles and...
Totally.
Oh, that would be funny too. That would be good. Yeah.
Before shutting the trunk and catching sight of a decidedly out of place young girl in a white dress. So now we're getting sort of a callback to like the first episode of the series, right?
Because she's standing in that way that only ghosts stand.
Yes. Completely like separated from everything else.
Well, and she flickers out like the lady in white does.
Totally. Yeah. He gets.
Yeah.
She almost gets creamed by like a red car.
No, he does.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. He almost gets hit by a car, breaking focus with the girl. When he looks back up, she's gone.
Yeah.
And we shoot back to the Winchester house.
Cut to Dean eating a sandwich.
Of course.
This really is a wish come true for Dean.
Mom's
back, eating a sandwich. Life's good.
Who needs more? I wonder how many times like if you could supercut all of the like times him eating food in this series, like how long that would be.
It's his greatest joy.
It's true.
It's constant in his life.
Yeah.
Nothing is constant in his life. So he
Except
has
for food.
sandwiches.
Yeah, that's true.
Dean is happily inhaling what he declares is the best sandwich ever. One assumes because his mom made it.
Yeah.
And talking to Mary, who for her part is wondering why he wasn't at work at the garage. So now we find out he's got a job. He works with cars.
Yep.
Covering easily, Dean says that he had the day off and is getting up to look out the window and offers to mow the lawn. More than a little amused by her son's apparent recent desire to hang around the house and do chores, Mary starts teasing that he's acting as if he has never mowed a lawn in a day in his life, which we know he hasn't.
Yeah.
Obviously unsure as to the proper handling and steering of a lawnmower, Dean is undeterred as he treks back and forth in the front yard, waving to the neighbors and very nearly whistling with actual genuine happiness.
It is funny watching him be so bad at mowing the lawn. It's very cute. It's a cute moment for Dean because it feels like something that... Yeah, it feels like something that he'd be like, yeah, I'm a man, I mow a lawn. And then he goes like,
I've never done this, right?
Like going over the sidewalk.
This is where we get the Joey Ramone's Wonderful World accompanying him
Right.
as the soundtrack, which I love.
I love them cranking like the color saturation a bit too.
Well, let's talk about that, right? Because the series usually has this dark atmosphere, often consisting of like grim like settings and a sense of danger. Kripke wanted there to be a contrast between these two worlds, right? Like there's a few references throughout this whole episode about sort of the Alice in Wonderland or Wizard of Oz thing specifically, right? Therefore, he requested that production designer Jerry Waynick build the most beautiful, warm, affectionate sets you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Cinematographer Serge, incredible cinematographer. We talked about him at length. Also made the usual shadows and moody lighting more colorful and warm. Though it rained most of the actual filming process, the perfect weather arose for the filming of this lawn mowing scene. Kripke wanted it to appear too perfect to be real and was able to fill a sunny, beautiful scene for this one day. It kind of worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And then car pulls up and Sam, all like, his button-up golf shirt, this little like windbreaker thing, gets out. And
so lame.
He's so lame, yeah. And Jessica gets out of the car, and Dean gives like a kind of like, well, son of a bitch or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he's can't believe that Jessica is there.
Gives a huge hug for her to the point where she's like, I can't breathe, Dean.
Yeah. Also, like, easy.
Yeah. Well, especially after like what he said about her on the first episode.
Yeah.
Kripke wanted Adrienne Palicki to reprise her role of Jessica Moore, Sam's deceased girlfriend, but she was busy filming for the Texas-based television series Friday Night Lights at the time.
That's right.
Because Jessica was an integral aspect of the storyline, the production schedule was adjusted to accommodate the actress. The first 5 days of filming commenced for What Is and What Should Never Be, and the production then shifted to All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1 until Palicki became available for the final 3 days of filming.
Interesting.
However, she was not present for the filming of the episode's climax. Instead, the actress filmed her part in front of a blue screen and was later digitally added into the scene.
Crazy. Well, yeah. I mean, without giving anything away, more of that kind of stuff happens at the end of this season. And we've already recorded
the episode.
We've recorded the episode for the finale, and a lot of that kind of
we get a lot of really cool shit.
Like stuff is in there.
Insane scheduling stuff for the finale of this series.
Really wild how some of this show comes together.
And some exciting guests that we have for it. Ooh. But we've got an even more exciting guest today with Laura.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's been dying.
Yeah,
it's not champing at the bit for
it's true.
For secondary host Laura Knight.
Yeah, stop using the hashtag bring in the night.
Oh, that's a great hashtag. That's metal as hell.
I of course have like a superhero in my brain that would be my superhero, and she's always been Nightbringer.
Oh yeah.
She's got light powers, so she can take light and make them dark. So she can make like a smoke that sort of fills everywhere.
Oh fuck
rechannel the light, so then her costume becomes the Dawnbreaker form.
We have another podcast you need to be talking about.
Oh, that's dope as hell.
That is very.
I love that. Do you know what? I think we're done here.
Yeah, let's go to the other podcast.
That's why I always just thought light-based superheroes are really cool because you get the fire, you get the super strength. But what about like because it'd be really good for spy stuff, being able to smoke, that kind of thing.
That's tight.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Let's
have a big
finish this.
60s looking two-tone costume where it's like white and black.
Oh yeah.
It lights up when you absorb the light.
That's fucking cool as hell.
I dig it.
I've been wanting to draw it for a really long time.
I think you need to now.
Yeah, I think you have to. Yeah.
Sam speculates aloud that Dean's been drinking, and this time it's hard to deny because he has a beer in his hand.
Even in Dean's perfect world, everyone thinks he's like a broken mess.
But I think that's kind of the point because that's how he sees himself. He sees himself as someone who's kind of a fuck up.
Yeah,
who's not even maybe as good at the job that he is good at. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true. Yeah,
probably he doesn't feel secure in himself even in the job he has now. So why would he think his normal life would be any different?
Preach.
And I also like that. I think this does work for him because what we're seeing now is him getting his life together.
Yeah.
So because he's with this like professional woman, they've got a house that's really nice. He works at the garage, something he's good at.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like he's clearly gotten his life together. That's why this is the fantasy. Because if it was legitimately 100% what happened, he might not have had his life together.
Totally.
That's true. Yeah.
Completely.
He's wearing a shirt and tie. They go out for a dinner. Dean has a plate with asparagus on it.
We go to this fancy restaurant because we find out that Sam was, because Dean's like, why are you at mom's house? And Sam basically says, well, it's mom's birthday, you fucking drunken mess. Like, aren't you ready for this? And so we now go to this fancy restaurant, probably in Kansas. The family's all gussied and gathered to celebrate Mary's birthday. Dinner is served, and Carmen proves how very well she knows Dean. I love this moment. She leans over and asks him if he wants to go for cheeseburgers later. Yeah, as he stares in horror at the dinner that is better dressed than he is.
Yeah, and then he says like, how did I get such a cool chick? And she says, I got low standards. Like, she's got Dean energy. It's perfect. I love it.
It's a really good, like, perfect person for him, for sure. Everyone at that moment, we find out that Sam and Jessica have an announcement that they are engaged. Everyone congratulates them, and Dean smiles with like genuine happiness and tells him that he's really glad that Sam's happy now. His joy is short-lived, however, when he catches sight again of the girl in white that he'd seen on campus. He pushes past Sam and crosses the restaurant, but by the time that he gets to her, she's gone. He's left with his whole family staring at him confused. We then go back to the Winchester home. When the group returns back to the house, Mary goes to bed, and Sam suggests that he and Jessica do the same thing. Dean wants to go out and celebrate more, though, and Sam excuses them from the ladies, pulling Dean aside and revealing that what had been obvious to everyone else, but to Dean at this point, the brothers do not get along.
Yeah,
not only that,
so sad.
Yeah, they aren't close. Sam reveals that Dean not only once stole his ATM card, he also stole his girlfriend and slept with her on prom night.
Which is gross too when you think about it, because Dean
5
is older
years.
than
Yeah,
Sam.
it's like 4
so
or
this
5.
girl is like 18 at best.
Oh,
and Dean is 4 years older.
Yeah, it's like, ooh.
Not great. Sam's not mad about it anymore, and he doesn't expect Dean to change. It's just kind of even sadder.
He's just kind of written him off.
Yeah, he's just like, I just don't want anything to do with you. Sam is gone before he can see the heartbroken look flash across Dean's face. So, I mean, it's rough. So we talked a bit about the fact that the whole premise is that if the mother never died, like, and the dad didn't have to take care of them, like, they wouldn't have been forced to connect, right?
Dean wouldn't have been forced to look after Sam, to have that kind of bond. They
didn't trauma bond. They didn't go through the stuff together that makes them like integral to each other.
But it is sad that, like, I do think it works narratively, but it is sad, the idea that, like, the only version of them that connects is like the most beat up, kind of broken versions of them.
I think you get a test run of that feeling in the first episode.
Him
away at school, wanting to just get away from him and his father. You know, like not just their dad, but also Dean, because he was part of all of that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So I feel like this is totally within what we know about Sam and how Sam feels about Dean already.
But he's always like a hair away from not wanting to really be with him.
And again, to Laura's point about Dean feeling these things about himself, Dean remembers that Sam left, and that this is probably Dean knows, like, or Dean thinks at least the only reason Sammy's in my life is because he has to be. Well, you know, like, it's sort of, it betrays, like, those insecurities of Dean's a little bit. Yeah.
Let's pile on the sadness a bit.
Oh, God.
If you look closely, you'll notice that Dean's amulet is not present in this fantasy world.
That's right.
Instead, he wears a medal. With silver chain. In this fantasy world, Sam and Dean are not close and do not get along. It may be that Sam never gave the amulet to Dean when they were children because their father never became a hunter. He would have never had to get a gift for Christmas. That Bobby was the one who ended up actually giving it. So they never knew Bobby. The amulet is worn by Dean again at the end of the episode in the current reality. So they like, it's heartbreaking. We now go to the Barker Avenue house. Dean is in his comfy clothes, flannel shirt and jeans. Carmen brings him his favorite brand of beer, El Sol, and he confides in her that he's upset that him and Sam don't get along. Carmen says that they just don't know each other at all. Dean replies that he feels like he's been given a second chance and he's not going to waste it. He's going to fix this thing with Sammy. Wooed by Carmen's concern, care, and the fact that she knows him so well, Dean falls into a very easily comfortable kiss, a very hot kiss, actually. What it is? It's hot.
She's very attractive.
Very much so. Carmen pulls away after a bit, saying that he can't do that to her. She's got to go to work. She appears shortly afterwards in Scrubs, somewhat impressed with himself that he is respectable enough to date a nurse. Dean.
You clearly know he thought he was dating a stripper.
Yeah.
That's the implication, is that when he takes over, he's looking to see what she's putting on. And it's the only other, it's like the first thing you think of when you think of a woman on a night shift who's super hot. What do you think she's doing on her night shift? I'm 90% certain he thought she was a stripper.
That's really
funny. I buy that. I think that's true. Yeah.
The studio wanted the scene of Dean and his girlfriend kissing on the sofa to include sex, apparently.
Okay.
However, Kripke could not work it into the script because he found it unrealistic that she would deliberately be late for her job as a hospital nurse.
Yeah.
Which I like that take. That was the right approach, I think.
She's a good woman.
Yeah. But Dean basically just like slinks into his couch and veges out for the night, which is weird to see. A report about the anniversary of the crash, United Britannia Flight 424, suddenly comes onto the news. Sitting forward in shock, Dean mutters, "We stopped that crash." The realization draws him to the computer, where he realizes that like the increasing horror that everyone he and Sam and John had saved from evil had died. Like they had all died.
Yeah.
It's all of them. Everything that they had done has now been undone. Glancing up quickly from the devastating information facing him from the computer screen, Dean sees the girl in white out of the corner of his eye and jumps to follow her.
Yeah.
He ends up back in his bedroom, where he's really shaken by the sight of two decaying, emaciated skeletons hanging by their wrists in the closet. He sees the girl once more moved before she vanishes and leaves basically Dean trembling. Yeah. So now we're seeing sort of like glimpses into the reality of what's going on.
He's seeing through the
veil,
the
basically.
Facade. Yeah. It's got, I mean, this type of story is obviously not unique. There's lots of these type of like, It's a Wonderful Life or whatever kind of things. But that particular moment of like the seeing something from the reality pierce in makes me think of a comic book. There's an issue of Superman called For the Man Who Has Everything, where he's trapped in like his perfect world where Krypton didn't explode and he and Lois live there and he has a relationship with his dad and stuff. And then bits of the real world start crumbling that dream and he's got to give it up. Yeah.
They did that in it might have been a crossover. I can't remember. In Supergirl, there was a time where they get locked up onto a ship. It is a crossover. That's right, because everyone's there. Because like, and they're trying to get information out of them. I think is what it is. But it's definitely that concept of we're going to make you happy so that we can get something out of you, whether it's happiness energy, whether in this case it's blood, but it's that trope of making you have the ideal world. So you don't
that's right. That's the invasion one. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. So we now go to a cemetery, the Lawrence Cemetery. Dean stands staring down at his father's tombstone. God, this fucking scene. So he's working to keep tears at bay, but too much has happened. His throat working convulsively. He begins speaking. I got to do this because this is just such a great scene.
All right, let's do it.
So all of them, everyone that you saved, everyone Sammy and I saved, they're all dead. And there's this woman that's haunting me. I don't know why. I don't know what the connection is. Not yet, anyways. it's like my old life is coming after me or something. Like it doesn't want me to be happy. Of course, I know what you'd say. Well, not the you that played softball, but the you'd say, go on and hunt the Jinn. It put you there. It put you here. It can put you back. Your happiness is your happiness or all of those other people's lives. There's no contest, right? But why? Why is my job to save these people? Why do I have to be some kind of hero? What about us? Huh? What? My mom's not supposed to live her life. Sammy's not supposed to get married. Why do we have to sacrifice everything, Dad? Then there's a thunder crashing. It's, yeah. Wiping the tears from his face, Dean swallows, nods, and turns to walk out of the cemetery. John may not be alive, but he directed his son all the same. Yeah. It's such a good fucking moment. Like that scene is
a powerful scene.
It's super powerful. This is also one unbroken take. Eric Kripke says that it was about the second or third take, and they just filmed it with two separate cameras, and so they wouldn't have to break up Jensen's performance. Kripke describes Jensen on the DVD commentary as a treat to work with because of how he can tap into his emotions and convey it on camera.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, I mean, the show always benefits from dumping a big, heavy emotional requirement on Jensen.
Yeah.
He's very adept at it. He's very good at the inner conflict, at when he's got a break, when he can't take it, when he can take it, when he is arguing for something he doesn't believe. He plays all of those kind of nuances so well. It's a great scene.
It makes me think of a few different things. One, I'm so glad we got Supernatural, but I'm kind of sad that it's because it went so long. We're only just now really getting to see the other stuff that Jensen Ackles can really do.
Sure.
Two, it's kind of upsetting how beautiful this man is, because he probably would have been an incredible just character actor that would have done like amazing stuff. Like he's too pretty and got sucked into a way too successful of a show. And I'm so curious to know what like his latter half of his life, like his career is going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's jumping into something that's kind of like not that far of a jump from Supernatural.
I'm excited to see him do more supporting roles.
I haven't gotten,
season 3.
I haven't gotten to the. Oh, he's in the next season.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm working my way through number 2.
Yeah, he comes into the
he's going to be he's going to be Soldier Boy.
It's kind of like a Captain America type character from what I.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like production shots that I've been seeing and things like that where he's got this like giant beard now. I don't know if that's part of the character or what.
Or if he's been in like a POW camp.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe that's something like that, right?
I'm excited to see him do more. Yeah, supporting roles, character things where he's not also being like the lead who kind of has to sort of stay on track because the show's built around them.
I think he very much sees himself as like the Dean type of guy, and I think part of him probably just is that guy.
Yeah.
But I actually think that he can probably do more than even he may even think of himself, because he definitely like he said in interviews, like he's like, oh, I go after the stuff that I'm good at, and I'm like, I actually think you're better than what you think you are.
Yeah.
He God damn, he's humble too. But he.
I just think he's a better actor than Sam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
like a long shot.
Yeah,
no arguments.
No,
lots of love for Jared, but like facts are facts.
Yeah, Jensen's incredible. He was up for the role of Hawkeye, but because of Supernatural, he couldn't take it.
Oh, he would have been so much better than Jeremy Renner.
I know.
Oh man, that's devastating for him. I would have loved him to have that role.
When I think about like
we would have had a Hawkeye movie if he was Hawkeye.
When I think about Endgame and like those scenes with like Jeremy Renner and his family and stuff, I'm like,
the Ronin stuff.
If that was Jensen instead,
someone out there deep fake it. I want a taste. Yeah,
but you're not gonna be able to get that acting chops with a deep fake. So we now go back to the Winchester house. Sam wakes in the dark next to Jessica, sensing a sound. I love this. So grabbing a bat, he creeps down the stairs and confronts the crouching figure bent over Mary's china cabinet. The figure barely needs to move before it disarms Sam. Sweeps him off his feet, plants him firmly on the ground, one hand on his chest. Sam blinks up with astonished Dean. It's a really nice homage to the first episode.
It is, yeah.
Sam demands to know what Dean's doing skulking around in the dark, and Dean makes up a story believable to this version of Sam, at least, that he owes money to a bookie and was going to pawn some of Mary's silver. Dean's just like, all right, you guys think I'm a piece of shit. I guess I'm going to pretend like I am. After taking one knife and slipping it into his pocket, Dean apologizes to Sam for everything that happened between them over the years, asking his brother to tell their mother that he loves her and that and then he starts to leave. Dean pauses at the door for one last wistful look around his sort of this life that he has always wanted, leaving Sam alone to gasp and flail around the living room in confusion. So Eric had the idea that
every scene is just such a fucking gut punch.
Eric had the idea in his head that Dean was going off on a hunt and wanting or not wanting Sam to go with him, and Sam coming anyway was really reflective of the first scene where they ran into each other in the pilot, and they got into that first fight. He said he got obsessed with recreating this idea. One of the first directors Kripke had become acquainted with and learned this from was David Nutter, who is those who've listened to this episode, our other podcast, know that he was the sort of like the one who created what the show's look was, and was really instrumental in sort of the production of the pilot of the show. Kripke thus wanted to include homages to Nutter's work on the pilot. Some scenes of the new reality were meant to be recreations from this first episode. The crew attempted to match even the camera angles, lighting, and the music as much as possible. While Sam and Jessica were sleeping in the bed, this was supposed to be the exact replica of the similar scene, and the fight between the brothers differed this time, basically, because the new Sam was pretty much a wussy. Dean is able to take him down instantly. Tucker noted that it was also a sneaky way of hinting that the new reality was merely an illusion, as he is re-experiencing that moment from the pilot because his fantasy world is being generated by what he already knows and has lived, right? So you're just pulling from experience. So literally it's going to start replicating things that had already happened in his life.
I like that. And again, that scene is so tough to watch. Just Dean being like, I'm sorry that we're not close. I'm sorry I can't fix it. And also just that he's like, I gotta say something, he's gonna believe I'm a dirtbag, I owe money, I'm stealing from mom. Like it's bad, it's tough.
He has to like be the piece of shit he probably feels about himself, right?
But interesting little moment where Sam, because of Dean saying all this stuff, elects to go with Dean.
Yeah.
And Dean's like, you're gonna slow me down, and he goes, tough, I'm coming with you.
Yeah, Dean like demands that Sam gets out of the car because he basically just popped in. Sam's having none of it, insisting whatever stupid thing you're about to do, you're not doing it alone, and that's that. So getting a hint of like the brothers that we're used to seeing, right?
Yeah,
I think it was too unrealistic for Sam to have no love for him in his own mind. Even I feel like even with his doubts, it would be unrealistic to him for Sam to not go, even if it's a different Sam.
There's nature versus nurture, right? But at the end of the day, like Sam, like is not a piece of shit. Like
no, he's an honorable person.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love this Dean explaining. He's like, I need a silver knife dipped in lamb's blood. He's like talking to Sam, and Sam's like, pull the car over.
Yeah.
Throws his phone out the window. He's like, this isn't real. Phones don't matter.
Yeah.
There's a funny...
It's kind of amazing.
There's a funny moment where basically like Dean's like, why are you doing this? And Sam's like, because you're still my brother. Dean's basically then mutters bitch. And Sam is completely baffled and replies like, why are you calling me a bitch for? And Dean's like, but you're supposed to say sure. Sam's like, what? And
it's such like a meta riff on the show. I really like that. Yeah.
It's really good. So yeah, they're on the road basically, and he's trying to explain the whole fucking lamb's blood thing and the knife and explaining this. He tells his brother he's crazy, that they are bad. It doesn't make any sense. And Dean's like, look, we're not crazy. There's bad guys out there. It's their job. It's our job to get rid of them. Yeah. Sam faces is basically a canvas of doubt and a lot of fear.
We cut to they get to that warehouse. They come back inside. We see the same tracking shot as we did before with the typewriter in front and all that kind of stuff. So we know we're back where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. As they approach the warehouse, Sam asks, "Where are they?" Dean says, "Well, we're not in Kansas anymore." He's quoting the Wizard of Oz, but additionally, Dean's dream was in Kansas, while in reality was in Illinois.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it's cute. It's a good little reference.
Yeah, I like it. Sam follows his brother through the warehouse, trekking nearly the same path that Dean followed earlier. So we're like literally replicating from even this original episode. Dean has the silver knife soaked in lamb's blood and is on high alert. Sam's completely freaked out. Dean demands in a low, careful voice that Sam stay behind him and stay quiet. Sam's reaction is to slide his eyes around as if he expects the boogeyman to jump at them anymore. I love Scared Sam. It's always really funny.
Yeah, they see these like kind of desiccated bodies like hung up, and then we start getting like flashes of the real world again.
Yeah, exactly. Dean sees the girl in white that he's been seeing all around town. She moans and asks in a weak voice for her father. Before he can do anything, though, the Jinn appears, uses the electric light, wish granting and sleep on the girl, subduing her, and then drinks some of the blood from the bag attached to her jugular. Dean has managed to get Sam behind some stairs, but then Sam sees this and he's unable to keep his gasp silent.
Yeah, I like non-hunter Sam a lot.
Very funny.
I feel like we've been through this before, and not before, but in a different episode later. Isn't there one where they're both bad?
Oh yeah.
What is the?
Yes,
they mess around with it a few times. There's like fear stuff. There's lots of different ways that they sort of mess around with it. Yeah. I always love the thing we'll get to eventually in the show is the Sam and his shoe. Like there's this whole thing with like the luck thing, and every time that they become like inept is always really funny.
Yes, I agree.
The Jinn turns at the sound and approaches, but Dean gets them out of danger. The Jinn leaves and Dean approaches the girl, realizing that she hadn't known where she was. She thought she was with her father. Sam is practically begging that they leave, but Dean is starting to get it. He's slammed by the disoriented, dizzying flash of himself, hanging in that very same room by his wrist, pale and dying, with his blood being slowly drained from him to provide sustenance for the Jinn. Sam, frantic now, promises Dean that he will believe anything if they just go, but Dean knows he's not going. Lifting the knife, he scares his already terrified brother by raising it towards Sam's chest, declaring, "Die in your dreams, wake up," right? Sam bellows, "Wait!"
Risky move.
Yeah, but his plea is ineffectual. Dean is preparing to plunge the knife forward when Mary's voice suddenly stops him.
Yeah. It's a risky move too, because even at this point in time in the real world, there is so much fiction that posits that dying in dreams or dying in the illusion, you die in real life. Yeah. And Dean's just like, those weren't right. Like Nightmare on Elm Street, or
he's literally reversing it.
I think it's because he knows he's tied up.
Yeah,
I think that's why he's so certain, because he knows he can't possibly be actually doing this in the real world. So it would just prove the fantasy fake.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it if that wasn't the case. If he didn't know that, if he knew that his arms were tied up and he was like hanging somewhere, I'd be like, okay. But if you didn't know that would be a wild move.
Yeah, exactly. It's risky.
Dean looks over slowly and sees his mother, but it's not the mother from the birthday dinner, but the Mary from his memory, with the unlined face, flowing hair, white nightgown. Yeah. It's the one from when Sam died.
Yeah.
Or from when she died
and Sam was a baby.
In Sam's room. This is so well acted too. She's like, "Why did you have to keep digging?" Sam asks that. Sam's like, "Why do you have to keep digging?"
Yeah.
Dean's eyes shoot back at him, not in shock, but more disappointed realization. Then suddenly Carmen shows up behind Sam. She's like, "Why couldn't you have left well enough alone?" Sam says. Jessica appears and Sam gently argues, "You were happy." Dean's just like, it wasn't real though, but he is slowly buffeted by the gentle waves of argument from Jess. You wouldn't have to worry about Sam anymore. Carmen says, we would have had a family of our own. And his mom says, "Get some rest." It's so heartbreaking because that's what Dean wants.
And
what he wants.
Yeah.
And we sort of all agreed earlier, we don't think Sam has the fortitude to do it. But also, like, neither do, I'm going to assume, any of us.
Yeah, no, God, no.
Like,
oh my God.
Dean is like Herculean here to give all of that shit up. It's crazy. I would be Joe Pantoliano in The Matrix, be like, "Plug me back in. Yeah. I'll rat out everyone.
I like the way steak tastes here. I'm fine with this."
I wouldn't be able to do that.
Dean knows that if he chooses to stay to live inside this happiness, he'll be dead in a matter of days anyways.
Yeah.
Even though it will feel like years to him. Listening to them, wanting the rest, wanting the happiness, but knowing that he had to do what is right. Dean looks directly at Sam and whispers, "I'm sorry," and plunges the knife into his chest.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wild.
So wild. So now we get flashed into reality. Sam yells Dean in the dim gray light of the warehouse when he sees his brother hanging pale and still by the wrists.
Yeah.
He launches himself over to Dean, apparently unsure where to touch that won't cause him more harm, repeatedly begging Dean to wake up. Sam is finally able to rouse his brother, who bleats a weak anti-M. Followed by "There's no place like home." I love even when he's like dead, basically.
Yeah.
Still got
Dean's
jokes.
always got jokes.
Sam carefully removes the needle from his brother's neck, confessing that he thought he had lost him there for a sec. Dean replies, "You almost did." Sam begins to cut Dean down when Dean catches sight of the Jinn lunging at his brother from behind.
Yeah.
Calling out a warning, Dean begins to haul on his still bound wrists while Sam struggles with the Jinn, getting knocked around in the process. Sam is pinned down to the Jinn at the stairs, and the Jinn's electric blue hand of wish fulfillment starts moving towards him.
I think it's flame. I don't think it's electric.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's that idea of them being like fire and air.
Oh,
it's like
okay.
it's like a blue flame
Okay.
thing, which is such a cool goddamn effect.
Yeah.
It looks dope.
Super hot flame.
Yeah. And sleep hovering above his forehead when the Jinn suddenly arcs back in pain and shock. Sam darts his eyes over to see Dean standing behind the Jinn, twisting the knife into its back to finish the job.
Yeah.
With a nonverbal check to make sure that they were okay, they head back to the girl in white, where Dean discovers that she is still alive and whispers to Sam to help cut her down. Catching the girl in his trembling arms, Dean whispers to her that they are going to get her out of there, get her safe.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm just going back to the thing you said about the makeup.
Yeah.
For the Jinn. It's
yeah.
He's barely in this episode. He had to wear it for 4 days. And he's got like 5 minutes of screen time.
It's bizarre to me that they couldn't shoot those like consecutively.
Right?
Like, why
Yeah.
didn't they not? Because it's the same location. He's never in a different location. It is always that weird.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't
it
really
feels
know.
it feels like he shouldn't have needed it that long.
No, I guess that Dean sort of has to look pale and stuff, maybe, but like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's bizarre to me.
Very bizarre. So we go to the motel now, and Sam is on the phone with the hospital and turns to Dean to assure that the girl is going to be okay. Dean is looking through the magazine that features an ad for El Sol, in which Carmen is smiling up at him.
Yeah.
So now you're getting a connection where he found that girl, where she was from.
How the image formed in his mind.
Yeah. Sam sits on the other bed and asks Dean if he's okay. Dean says that like basically all the things that he'd seen, what he'd wished for, but that he hadn't. But what he hadn't had, he had his mom alive. That he and Sam had never gone hunting, so they'd never learned how to be brothers. Sam watches Dean closely and says, "Yeah, well, I'm glad we do. I'm glad that you dug yourself out, Dean. Most people wouldn't have had the strength." Including me.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
Sure. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
and they would have stayed. Dean's unconvinced of the wisdom of his actions. "Yeah, lucky me. I got to tell you, though, man, you had Jessica. Mom was going to have grandkids." He stands and walks across the room and leans over the dresser, looks back at Sam, who argues that it wasn't real. It doesn't matter. And Dean says, I know, but confesses that I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay so bad. I mean, ever since Dad, all I can think about is how much this job's cost us. We've lost so much. We've sacrificed so much. The raw emotion, the utter heartbreak on Dean's face is too much for Sam, who argues, but the people who are alive because of you, it's worth it, Dean. It's not fair. And you know, it hurts like hell, but it's worth it. Dean lifts up his doubtful eyes and rests on them on his brother. The screen fades to black. Crazy.
Great. Really good. Really good.
Crazy.
episode.
Really good episode.
This episode, along with this one other episode, season 10, Supernatural fan fiction from 2014, are the only two episodes where the only living thing that dies is the monster of the week.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No casualties, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Isn't that crazy?
It's a clean getaway.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you count those bodies that were already dead, I guess.
Yeah, they did die before. It's fine. Laura, you are our guest. Maybe if you could tell us sort of like a summary of what you felt about this episode, what you think about it in general, and maybe a review out of 5.
I think this episode is really great because it encapsulates so much of like what the show is. But you're getting that in a Monster of the Week episode, which is interesting because this isn't tied to a finale. This isn't tied to like some sort of exposition for a later episode. This is just by itself. It's a standalone, but yet it totally does character development.
Yeah.
Like some of the best character development, I think. And I would give this one a high rating. I'd give this one like 4.5 stars. I think this is a really good episode. I think also it reminds me that this show was always knew what it was. It knew from the get-go what it was, and it's bringing in themes in this season 2 episode that are continually revisited over and over again. But it also gives you this basis for things that happen later, like getting to know his mom in this episode, even if it's not the real mom.
Yeah,
it's like something that really gets you kind of a basis for who she is for when you meet her later, because then she's no longer just someone who's appeared in a couple of scenes. She's not this ambiguous thing. She's a real person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah, they really gave her some agency here. It's nice.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, good Lord. I mean,
I know, what a heavy episode.
Like I said, the thing, I mean, obviously, I'm a comic book fan who is now into Supernatural. Yeah. So this episode to me, I think of that Superman issue.
Yeah.
It's like those two are up there as like, and in both cases, there are these examples of like you're demonstrating like the fortitude and inherent like goodness of a character by having them. I mean, yeah, it's an illusion, but for them, it's also kind of not. They literally have to give up everything or something important. In the case of Dean's, it's a little less utopian because he and Sammy don't get along and stuff like that. But he still has to give up his mom. He has to give up a life. He has to give up having his own family. Like, and those are real, right? Like, because it's all like emotion and it's in his head and that, it's not less real than having to do it in the physical world, right? So it's such like an insane sacrifice, and then for Dean to come out of that and realize like that all just happened in like 3 hours or like whatever, a couple of days or something. It's like
I think it's the same day because I think Sam's wearing the same clothes,
right?
And I think Sam would have come after him really quick. Like if Dean didn't answer his phone because he went in there, he was in there, and then just stopped talking to him. So, and he said exactly where he went. So I have to assume it's only been hours.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's
it's still nighttime.
It's like a week of emotional turmoil for Dean, and the high highs and the low lows and all this kind of stuff. And then he wakes up and it's just the same day, and it's like that's like another layer.
Very like inner
of
light
that.
moment.
It is, yeah. I mean,
it's weird that he suddenly could play the flute after
Jensen's incredible. Jensen's incredible in this episode. That scene with the talking to like John's grave is outrageously good. Just the disappointment in those moments where Sam is like basically like, you're a drunk, I'm going to bed. It's just like, oh, you can really feel it. Like Dean always has this kind of like, he makes me think of like, you know, when like a dog, people call it like, say it's like a bad dog or whatever, but it's never had a good home, and you're like, it's kind of like that's sort of how you feel about Dean. Like in this, it's a very, very heart-wrenching episode, and such a fascinating way to play with the genie idea. That like the genie never actually grants the wish. This is not a parallel universe. It's not even an alternate timeline. It's a hallucination in Dean's head. And then the reality is breaking through it, right? Like, what a cool twist on the quote unquote power of the Jinn. It's not granting a wish. It's reading your mind and feeding it back to you. Like, it's kind of a fascinating, fun way to play with those ideas at a stage in the show when they are not yet ready to like break down the fourth wall completely. You know, I think it's great. I would give this. I'll give this 4.5 days of tattoos on your face.
Oh, you got the one that I got. Oh, that's what I was gonna do. Oh yeah. I mean, it's crazy. This is season 2.
Yeah, wild.
Like this type of introspection on your own characters, the like what they do. Like we talked about this a couple episodes with the werewolf episode, the heart. But I mean, like this usually takes seasons for shows to get to this type of point. To be able to already start questioning the lives of your characters and their decisions they make, and like what alternate realities would be. Like that's not a thing you get in season 2 typically. Like,
and it doesn't feel premature. Like it's earned and it's grounded and it's like good at this point, which is
an
wild.
element of like great character building, like really good writing. Like these are the things that allow you to be able to do this type of thing. And it's also really well directed. Like
he's his first time, and he did a great job.
He did a really good job. I'd be curious. I want to look and see what other stuff he's done. I actually haven't looked, but I wonder if he's done any more of the shows that he's worked on, because he does a really great job. And I think it's because of, I mean, he really knows these characters, which gives them sort of like a unique approach to it. And also, I mean, he's taken a lot from really great directors. Like you're talking about Kim Manners and like David Nutter. Like he's definitely had a really great sort of collection of incredible directors to look after. But I mean, this was like his first like real show too. Like it's not like he's been working in the industry for years. Like all of this is still pretty young.
Well, he was on X-Files, wasn't he? He did X-Files before this.
I think he did. Yeah, he was a writer on there with Kim Manners. That's how they know each other. But but it's still pretty early in his career to be able to pull out this type of thing. Like
it's great.
It's really impressive. So I mean, the level of acting that he brings to this, the fact that we get like some of the female characters in this get a bit more sort of agency, and actually we get to be more, and they actually like don't just like swap out Jessica for any random hot girl. Like they do justice. Like they don't really give her a lot in this, unfortunately, but they at least like they care about those small details, which is nice.
Even the thing with Carmen and like the cheeseburger or stuff like that. You're like, they put in, fine, she's not a main character in the episode, we're not going to see her a ton, but they put in enough care that it's like, this is
and she like cares about her job,
a
like
multi-dimensional character who is both responsible but also kind of like Dean.
There's some really nice things that they've chosen to do with this. And I mean, this is an incredible episode in my opinion. Like we're talking about like looking at the rest of season 2, I'm gonna have to give it 5 out of 5 bottles of El Sol. I think like this, like it's when I think about the other episode that we gave 5 stars to, which was the Tall Tales, the Trickster episode. I mean, like that's the only other episode that I feel like is.
We actually didn't give 5s.
Did we not?
No,
I thought we gave.
We gave 5s to Hollywood Babylon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, fuck, that's a great episode.
And we gave 5s to Night Shifter.
Yes,
those are the 2 this season that we've given. Across the board 5s.
Yeah, this is in line with those, if not maybe better. Like we're only comparing it to the season it's in. Yeah, and this is like at the top of the quality of this season, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna give this 5. Like I really really enjoy this episode.
It's a terrific episode. I think the only thing I'd want a bit more of is in those moments with the Jinn, just a little. You just
feel bad for the actor.
One extra thing, like I do feel bad. He had 4 days of makeup, and for what?
The Jinn doesn't have like a inner life at all. Like it's just a pleasure vampire.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's the one component.
It's not True Blood character.
It's the one component that's missing. Maybe that's too much to stuff into an episode. Like maybe structurally it doesn't work, but compared to all of the stuff we get, and the fact that season 2 is full of episodes where it's like, these monsters just gotta live, this is how they live, or whatever. Like it does feel like in this one they're like, oh, we're just gonna fucking stab this guy.
Yeah. He's a tool for this.
He's just a little
theme.
He doesn't have enough going on.
They give you the enough motivation to kill him, and that's what they did. That's basically it. It's like you'd feel justified in what's happening because you see this girl who's bleeding out, and like like I feel like that he's evil.
Yes,
that's enough, I guess.
Definitely. Laura, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Yeah.
You've got incredible artwork and stuff online. Maybe tell people where they can follow you online and where they can check out your stuff that you've got going on.
So I am LM Night Art on basically everything. So LM and then KNIGHT art. And that's on Twitter, that's on Instagram, that's on all of it. You can get merch. It's hard. For some reason, TeePublic has problems doing direct links. So if you just go to my my Instagram, I believe there's a link to it. And if there isn't, I will fix that.
Nice.
But yeah. But that's where you can get merch for not just myself, but for also This Is Rad.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to do that, if you do through my store, I get a little bit of a kickback.
Nice.
So if you buy This Is Rad from my store, I'll get a little bit of a money for that. So that would be cool. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. My Instagram's a little dead right now. Been taking kind of an artistic hiatus, but it'll be up and running again.
Why is there stuff going on with the world that would make you non-creative?
Just a lot of work too, just regular work. But so that's where I'm at. I am not like a strictly artist kind of profile on Twitter. I do a lot of like political and comedy talking. So just don't be like surprised. You're like, this is not artwork. This is not at all what I thought.
It's social art. All right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Me talking about pooping and the president.
Yeah. Social art. That's what I said. That's awesome. Yeah. And listen to This Is Rad. Laura and I did a great episode recently about graphic design that you should check out. So
that's right.
That is it for this week. If you have a note about this episode, or maybe we have something coming up in the future, or one that we've already covered, or you just want to talk to us about Dean, or the rest of Supernatural.
Oh, talk to us about Dean.
Yeah. You can send us an email at
ghostfacerspodcast@gmail.com.
And we've mentioned superheroes a bunch in this episode because Reed can't help himself.
It's my cultural touchstone.
I introduced it too.
That's true. That's true. That's fair. Yeah, you started this. But if you want to finish it, you can go to our other podcast.
Yeah, it's called the Dr. DC Podcast. We talk about DC Comics. We answer listener questions. If you like delving into lore about monsters and stuff like that, you'd probably enjoy diving into lore about superpowers and things like that.
A lot of the same themes, which is why I think that they're so relevant, right? Like a lot of the stuff that comes up in this show is like directly correlating to stuff that happens in comic books.
Totally.
And, our podcast is all about introducing people to the thing that maybe they hadn't before. So whether you are...
no knowledge required.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a fun, silly time.
Find a character you're interested in and jump in from there. So listen to Dr. DC, and that is it for this week. Say goodbye, bitch.
Jerk.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.